Welcome back. This is now day 3 of Empower Your Leadership with Queer Integrity, and it is the know principle, not N-O-K-N-O-W. What are your key notions of worth? Key notions of worth. So your values, they're not just words. They could be, but if they're just words, then they have no weight. They have no real meaning in a sense of motivation or inspiration or energy behind them that are the compass, literally, that guides you in every decision, action, and connection that is the right direction. And by right direction, I mean the direction you have established that is the one that is in alignment with what you hold to be true, to be right, to be most valuable. So when your beliefs are deeply understood, meaning you've internalized them, that you really know where they've come from and why you believe what you believe, and you're consistent in expressing and showing up with unwavering clarity and confidence and integrity in your beliefs and your values. Wow, that makes for an incredibly profound, influential, and impactful style or kind of leadership. So let me take you through the key notions of worth, the acronym, and then we're going to get into today's invitation to practice. Key, K for key. Identify the core values and beliefs that are essential to who you are, the ones that must be honored if you're to live and to lead with integrity. This is something that I go quite in depth um, with clients in a coaching program. This isn't something that you can really sit down and just hammer out in a few sentences. It takes time for us to be really clear and refine what it is we value and why we value those things and why they're so entrenched in ourselves. And if it's blurry, it's not clear. I know that's rhetorical, but if it's blurry, your decisions are going to be blurry. Your actions and your choices are going to be blurry. They're never going to feel quite right with you. So coming to notions, N for notions, that's being consciously aware of the principles and perceptions that you hold about yourself, others, and the world. This is what operates sort of below the surface on the unconscious level. You've established those beliefs and values, and they're almost like the autopilot in the car. I don't think we've got quite there yet, but maybe that's actually a better metaphor than I thought. Uh, Cars don't perfectly guide themselves based on the principles and the values that have been set up in their system to pay attention to all of the things in their environment so that they won't crash into another car. Similar to ourselves, if we're not very attuned to what is most important to us, we're going to have problem in paying attention to what's in front of us. So this acronym is a little bit unique. O for of is a joiner. It isn't really quite a true word in the sense, but it joins this idea of knowing. So it's recognizing that values without actions are just ideas. The word of reminds you that values live in relation to your actions, your experiences, and your purpose. Finally, W for worth. That's defining what absolutely truly matters to you and for the greater good. Worth is not just what you believe in, it's what you're willing to stand up for consistently and courageously. So all of this is what brings you to having a personal code of conduct, whether you consciously have this awareness, whether you have this written down, or it's something that you actually want to write for yourself. It's like your ethical GPS navigation system, giving you the direction to where you're going to go, how you're going to lead, your communication, your connection, your compassion, your empathy. When you know what you stand for, self-doubt diminishes and the impact of your leadership grows exponentially because people want to follow your lead because they're inspired by what you know, by your key notions of worth. So let's get into what today's invitation to practice is. Essentially, what do you stand for? This is a saying that I love because it's kind of abrupt, but it's very true. That if you don't know what you stand for, you won't have a leg to stand on. And that speaks really to another one of my favorite expressions from the Tao Te Ching, which is that the journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath your feet. Both of these um, points speak to the exact same truth, that in order to take a meaningful step forward, you first need to know where you stand. Because taking a meaningful step forward means you have the intention and the direction and the clarity and the plan about what it is you want to do. And to do something, you have to action. You have to take that first step. But you need to know where you're coming from in order for that to have the greatest potential impact. And that affects, of course, your leadership, because leading is action oriented, it's direction oriented, it's taking a step towards making change. And if you want to lead with queer integrity, you need to know what's ethical to you, what your values are, and how you show up in the world as someone who embodies what they stand for truthfully, consistently, and with courage. That's your code of conduct. So knowing where you stand on the important issues in the world for yourself, within your community, within your politics, what have you, is similar to knowing your exact location on the map. Only then can you take that meaningful step in the direction of your values. So today's practice is a standpoint. What do you stand for? It's 5 questions, but it's really going to get the noggin working, all right? So the first question is, in 1 to 3 sentences, describe what you stand for, what you believe to be true, meaningful, and right. This could be anything. It could be from the very powerful, impactful, uh, political, ideological, to what you feel about relationships, climate change, um, anything above, below, somewhere in between. Take your time with this one because there will be clues in every aspect that you write out about what you believe to be true, meaningful, and right. There will be like a cohesion across all of these stances or standpoints that you take. Once you've done that, and this is kind of like a list of what you stand for. Now you're going to answer question number 2. Why does this matter? Like, why does this matter so deeply to you? What makes it meaningful in your life or your leadership? Because what you stand for is what's going to give you that energy, that inspiration to do something about it. Maybe you're only just thinking about doing something about it. Maybe you only sign petitions at the moment, or you share a few thoughts on social media, or maybe you're quite active in an organization, either giving your time or your money towards making the changes that you truly believe will make a difference in the world. Third question, how do you know what you believe is true? How do you know what you believe is true? All these things that you take a stand for. Take some time to look back on your childhood, your adolescence, growing up in your late teens and early 20s. What shaped each of your beliefs, your experiences, your environment, your education, your family setting, your friends, your whatever affiliations you have, work experience, all of these things shape your belief. Our beliefs come from community and belonging, or even trying to fit in if you don't yet belong. Who taught them to you, or what beliefs did you adopt? And then you can ask yourself, how do I know if this is true? Because many of us have been taught beliefs, for example, by our parents. It may have been well-meaning, it may not have been well-meaning, it may have been something like indoctrination, but we learn our many of our core beliefs from our parents because they are teaching us the way of the world that they know, and they are imparting that to us. And each person's experience is going to be very unique depending on their parental experience. So, how do I know if this is true? Permit yourself without judgment. Allow yourself to be curious, like that explorer going deep into a cave, knowing that there's some hidden treasure in there, or that you might find a hidden treasure. Embrace uncertainty. Be open to the unknown, because that is what will deepen your clarity and strengthen your integrity. The ability to be flexible and yielding in questioning what you believe to be true, and to be open to the possibility that you might just go, I don't know. And that will open the door to wondering how you can find out how that might be true, or to the best of your reasoning, how that will be true. Last two questions. What do you do consistently that reflects your commitment to these beliefs and values? So in your day to day, or every week, or every month, because perhaps some of these things are bigger projects or organizational, or happen in your workplace, or perhaps it's something you do as a volunteer. What do you do consistently that reflects your commitment to these beliefs or values? And to keep it simpler so that it doesn't take you hours and hours to complete today's standpoint practice, think about perhaps the key things, the one or two or three key beliefs or values that are absolutely the most important things that you stand for. And then, how might your actions inspire others to follow your lead? Not because they necessarily agree with you, but because they trust your integrity. And that's one of the most beautiful things about inspired leadership, I believe, is that how you show up and how you lead might inspire others to be curious about what you're doing, because you lead with such integrity, not with prejudice or contention or creating discord, but you're leading with such integrity in your values and your beliefs that people can't help notice. Wow, this person is really confident and secure in what it is they're saying, what it is they're communicating. Okay, so let's make this queer. The final reflection, a question from the margins. What part of your queerness do you want to honor as something that nourishes? Why can't I say that word? As something that feeds your sense of worth and anchors your values and reminds you of who you are. Yeah. What part of your queerness do you want to honor in your key notions of worth? There is some very good food for thought there. This is perhaps one of the deepest practices of this 7-day journey, because it's very nuanced. There are questions here that a lot of people have perhaps never been asked or never considered. So if you get stuck, it's okay. Go on to one of the next questions, or go on to a different area of your life, or just get through the questions to the best of your ability. And if you think of something more, come back to it today or at a later day. All right, that's it for now. Get to work, and I'll see you in the next day for the next practice.